Hey, what is up everybody? How are you doing? Today I want to talk about a couple things on the financial side, spending money, what is money, and I got a few things back on the table I want to talk about and tell you how I'm dealing with things. So if you are a prepper, which I assume most of you are, and even if you are not a prepper and you're maybe thinking about getting into this sort of lifestyle and mindset, this might be some good information. But you're preparing for an SHTF situation. You're preparing for something very major to happen in the United States that is going to affect your everyday life. And really, it doesn't matter a whole lot on what happens, but we're going to have some sort of currency. We're going to have to be able to pay for things, buy things, and stuff like that. So I want to go over three things really that I have in place for certain timelines during SHTF. Now, during an SHTF situation, we may have that major wake up in the morning to a new world type of situation. This would even apply in that case, but most likely there's going to be a little bit of a build up and then that. So we're probably going to see it happen. We're probably going to notice something's kind of coming on, but that will eventually happen. Now, taking that situation, we wake up one day and the world's in a different place. Now, or our country's in a different place for that matter, but our country is going to affect the whole world, so that's irrelevant rather. But we're going to have to pay for things. Now at first, there's going to be a lot of disbelief, at least for a week or two. Everything's going to get fixed. Things are going to get better. There's going to be a part of society that's just going to say, shit just hit the fan. The other half of society is going to say, we're going to make it better. We're going to clean it up. We're going to do whatever we need to do. And life is just going to get back to normal. So the first means of cash that I use is, in fact, cash. I got a wad of cash. This is in the denomination of $20 bills, $2,000 and $20 bills. I went to the bank, pulled it out, asked for 20s, actually did it remotely through an ATM drive-through type thing. And they were able to give it to me, a big old wad. It came out in sections, which was kind of funny. Not really any questions asked about it or anything. I had no problem at all pulling out that money. Cash will be king. When everything pretty much hits the fan, electric goes out, grid down situation, the banks get hacked, anything like that, even if there was an attack on the US, as you might be able to still use plastic, cash will be king. So I like to have quite a bit. I mean, not a lot, but I have that in $20 denominations, and I've also got some $50 denominations, just so if I need to make a larger purchase, I have this. Okay, there's not much information on there. I was kind of looking like it's not even my bank, so. But it's going to allow you to make a purchase. Last minute emergency, you have to buy some sheep or cattle or chickens or seeds or whatever you think you might need in the immediate beginning of SHTF. Cash will probably be king. If you're able to use a card, use your card first, so you don't have to worry about the process of taking out cash. But once that balance gets down low, once your bank account gets low, you're gonna have to have cash. Now, there's another thing. Let's get into precious metals. Everybody talks about precious metals, and I hate when videos talk about precious metals because it's a big trend, and everybody halfway through the video has to plug their sponsor of a metal broker or something like that. And it's just annoying because it takes up half the video of something I've heard a million times. And I'm past that point. I don't need to learn about gold. I don't need to do any of that. But on a different note, silver. Now I've got a couple things here. This is quite dirty. I have a nice silver platter, quite heavy. That is a few pounds of silver. And this is a little dustpan for restaurants back in the day. A nice high-end restaurant would use something like this. It comes with a brush. I didn't bring the brush out. It's wooden. It's irrelevant for the silver situation, but you know, you kind of brush up crumbs off of the table on a high-end restaurant. It could be sought after, but this is silver. I would also put this for the silver junk coins. A lot of people talk about that. Now, I think most people are going to be clueless to what you have. So if you're trying to go out and buy something, you know, I don't even know how many quarters it would take to make an ounce, the 1964 solid silver quarters. But it's going to take a lot of them, and you're going to have to convince that person, if they don't know what's up with those quarters, that you're right and you're not ripping them off, and I wish you the best of luck. So I'm not doing that. Something like this holds value. The silver quarters hold value as well, but I think this is going to be a little bit more liquid to somebody that's willing to give up some of their property. Now, silver rounds, silver bars, I think would be better than the quarters. Yes, you can get the junk quarters pretty cheap, so if you don't have a lot of money, that's a good way to do it. But I would really focus that on a dealer, somebody, at least somebody that knows what the heck you got. Because a year ago, if you came up to me and tried to sell me a quarter for 35 bucks, I'd tell you to go, you know where to go. I would literally laugh because I knew there was some out there, but I'm not going to get taken because I don't know the years or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of people like that. But just bulk silver on things, stuff like this. I wish I had the whole set. This is going to be able to either go to a person. People know silver platters more than coins and quarters. This can also go to an antique shop. It can go to a silver dealer, gold dealer, something like that. I think it's just a little more liquid than going with the junk coins, personally. Now, if you're going to buy something like this, it's probably not going to be cheap at this point, but if you have stuff like this on hand, look at that as currency. Now, I'm not going to be able to avoid the obvious, but yes, gold. 100%. Now, it's going to be fairly hard to get rid of as well. Now, if you're something that's as common as a silver gold eagle, that a lot of people know it. A lot of people know that. Buffaloes, a lot of people know. When you start getting some of the weird stuff that's got some Chinese power plant or something like that on it, you might not be able to get it. And I only say that because I have a silver round that's a Chinese power plant, and but that's actually stamped 99.999% pure. So hopefully that will be enough to be able to convince somebody that it's going to be worth something. There's a lot of frauds out there. Another thing I want to talk about, well, let me talk about the gold rounds. You will be able to do deals with this. I would wait a little further back. Maybe a month into SHTF or something like that, these are going to come in handy. You're going to have to consider selling these to a gold dealer. Now, right at first, it might be questionable. Even a few months into it, it might be questionable whether they're buying, whether they want to let go of their cash, whether they want to let go of their gold. They might close down. The gold coin, We Buy Gold Here, all these stores, I'm really curious to find out what happens when and if SHTF happens. That is going to be an interesting thing to see, to say it any other way. They may or may not be available to cash in your gold, your physical gold, for cash. Now, I bought these at $1,800 an ounce. Everybody thought I was completely crazy. I thought I was a little bit crazy, to be honest. I saw a pattern that was going on, and it's a pattern kind of like what's going on today. It's called a bull flag. So it's basically when the stock comes up and then flattens out or goes down a little bit. I took a screenshot, I'll show you. That's what's going on right now. It's gone up to 31.24 or something like that per little coin. And it's just accepting that value. So usually when it accepts that value for a certain amount of time and it doesn't want to go back down, it doesn't want to retrace, it's going to go ahead and shoot up the same amount that it shot up to get to that point, which we're looking at, it was like $110 on that run that went up to the bull flag. It's going to run another $110. So I'm not doubting at all in the next week or two, we're going to see 3,200, 3,250, something like that. Now, I'm not trying to talk anybody into buying gold. It is going to be a liquid thing. Like everybody says, it's been a currency for thousands of years. It'll continue to be a currency. It's a true standard of holding the value of the money. Because gold's going up, the dollar's going down. So this is worth a lot less when this is going up. So that's a good thing. I wouldn't put everything into gold, but it will be good to have some. And I think a couple months into it, people might be thinking about things different. I think that's where gold will come in. Now I want to talk about a couple things that are a little bit more abstract as far as the currency goes, but people are going to want. And that is jewelry. You're not going to see it with my face, but gold necklaces, gold rings, that is going to hold value. You will be able to trade that just as easy as a gold coin, silver coin, or any other commodity like that. I have actually bought things with necklaces before. So I know for a fact it works. It's worked for me. I've already done it. So I know that's definitely going to be a thing. It's not going to be much different than this. You know, that is not a jewelry, but it is kind of a piece of art made out of a precious metal. So that holds a little bit of value. Now, another thing I want to get into is watches. Yes, watches, when shit truly hits the fan, and I would leave this for a much longer date to be able to part with stuff like this. I would even possibly consider silver trays, silver pieces, jewelry to get grouped into a situation like this to where this is going to become currency. Now, all over the world, a nice watch like this one isn't anything special. A little bit. This is a Michael Kors. It's got a few dollars attached to it. People do look for watches. Watches are sought after all the way around the world, and they hold a value. That is all a currency is. Trade value for value. If you're lucky enough to have a Rolex is like a $20 American bill. You can go anywhere in the world. You can go down to Uganda and do business with a Rolex. Now, maybe something like this, you're not going to be able to do it as much, or you know, even a lower end one like this, but this is still going to hold value. Now, I do warn you, if you have a smartwatch is going to be completely useless in the apocalypse. Nobody's going to want one. Everybody wants one right now, but what everybody wants now, nobody's going to want when shit hits the fan. If you lose electricity, if there's a number of situations that are going to deem this thing useless. I like this watch. I've only used it a few times. I'm not a smartwatch guy. I like a mechanical and automatic, but there are people that still hold a value to these, especially if you have something that's a little bit nicer than just a typical iWatch, whatever the hell they're called, Apples, or just a typical smartwatch. It's going to hold a little bit of value for probably a short amount of time. I would almost put that on the level with cash. Like, it's an immediate thing. As a matter of fact, yeah. I mean, if shit hits the fan tomorrow, I'm ditching this thing as quick as I can. Just to put a little bit of cash in my pocket, because this is going to last a little bit longer. And when that runs out, I'm going to move to these, and so on and so on. So I have a little bit of a plan laid out to what I'm going to be able to use first, what I'm going to be able to use just a little bit into a situation, and what I'm going to be able to use in the long term. And I kind of put gold as a middle of the road type thing, but gold is going to be long term as well. it is going to be good for eternity. Yeah, I mean, it's never going to tarnish or anything. So as long as you can physically hold it, you're going to have the value of whatever per ounce spot price that is. Which also during an SHTF situation is probably going to change dramatically, since it's all under the US dollar, and the US dollar is going to be coming up to some big changes. So who knows what's going to happen with gold. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over that. Just, you know, 3 or so tiers of payment, spending money, how I'm going to spend money. Yeah, you can get into it like food, actually seeds. Seeds could be currency depending on what happens. If there's a huge supply shortage, if the supply chain goes down, if gas, diesel, any of the fuels become a rarity, if anything happens between that, you are not going to be able to get food. Seeds are definitely going to be a currency. Stocking up on seeds quite a bit. I can always use more. They don't last forever, but they do last a very long time. Like I mentioned in another video, they pulled up a date seed since, I think it was buried in a coffin back in the time of Jesus, 2,000, 2,200 years ago, something like that. They planted it and it grew. So seeds are, heck, almost as good as gold. Are you going to be able to get a lot of money for it? No, but you will be able to get money for it. You will be able to trade for it, because this corn right here could feed somebody corn for the rest of their life. If it's heirloom. This is an heirloom, but you can definitely replant. A lot of seeds, you can do that, so buy heirloom. But anyway, kind of rambling on. I just wanted to go over this stuff with you guys, whether you're an experienced prepper or a beginner prepper. Hopefully you got something out of this, and I'll leave it with that. So I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.